So, the Grumman, the retro race. I thought I'd do a little video that goes into a bit more info, a bit deeper into the project, because the last video was a bit more of a summary of our entry into the overall project of the retro race. So this is our entry. It's a 1994, I think, Grumman LLV, which is a USPS, that's US Postal Service delivery truck. There's about 150,000 of these in the States, still in service, very few in private ownership. This was supplied new to Pinewood Studios in the UK for use in a film, and then actually got used to film out of the back of, on set, you know, filming other films there before going into private ownership. A few different people have had it. I've now got it. First thing I did was rip it apart. So they run on a Chevrolet S10 chassis originally with an Iron Duke 4-cylinder petrol engine, hideously underpowered through a 3-speed auto. Nothing redeeming about any of that. Nothing's going to light your world on fire. Suspension was wallowy. The steering was sketchy because of the narrow track on the front. Had a great turning circle, but not really something you want to be driving above about 40-50 mile an hour regularly. It had an LPG kit on it to try and make it slightly fuel efficient, but just awful. So all of that came out. We've built a chassis and we've put a Mercedes 3-litre OM606 turbo diesel engine in. We've got most of the tuning parts for that from Luke at Diesel Pump UK. So we've got a bigger pump, an HX35 turbo, and we'll be doing all sorts of other mods, different exhausts, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's bagged. You might be able to see on the video, or we'll put some pictures up. So it's running Airlift XXXHP suspension management with Dominator bags all round. What I essentially did when I built the chassis on this was I jigged the Mercedes mounts and then replicated that on this chassis. So it is, to all intents and purposes, an E300 diesel W210 Mercedes underneath. The wheelbase is slightly shorter, but the track width is the same, front and rear. It's using the rear end from the Mercedes, the front end from the Mercedes in terms of geometry, bottom arms, top arms. Yeah, so it's really quite a modern car. The Mercedes are like a 1998, 99, 2000, I think. So I stripped apart the donor car and essentially replicated all of that. I'm hoping it's going to be about 350, 400 horsepower from what the indications from Luke are, which should be pretty fun. As you can imagine, being aluminium body, it's not actually that heavy in terms of the body shell, so it could be quite a bit of fun. We'll see when it's done. It's having a full roll cage that we'll be bending up here in-house. We've done a deal with Dimmokin Limited, Tom Wood, to get a CNC bender, so that is on order now, and we're going to have that here in time to do this cage. So that's going to be exciting, lots to learn and lots to do, but that's going to be great. So we're going to get quite creative on that, and then really it's getting everything working. That's the next step. The engine gearbox is all mounted. I've got an off-gear control unit for the transmission. The transmission is the same basic unit as in the W210 E300, but the main body of the gearbox is from the V8. So you swap the bell housing from the diesel over onto the V8, use the torque converter from the diesel, and then that gives you the stronger gear section of the auto box. Pair that with the off-gear controller, and you can get flappy paddles and a lot more performance out of the gearbox. So hopefully, nice little drivetrain, nice and usable, plenty of power, yeah, and actually pretty straightforward so far. We'll see how we actually get on by the end of it. What else are we doing on this? Making some bucket seats. The bucket seat that's in there in a minute is just a mock-up. I'm doing a one-off design for this. There'll be higher backed buckets with harnesses. All the steering will be scratch built. Obviously, you know, we've got to sort out the cooling system, intercooler, radiator, transmission cooler, all of that. But we've got a big old shopping list in with Demon Tweaks at the minute, so hopefully they're going to help us out with that as well. yeah, lots to do, but we've got quite a chunk done once we got the chassis done, so now it's a lot of details. Paintwork wise, the visual sort of look of it, this is all getting stripped off. It's had numerous repaints to suit all the different owners over the time, and then it's had this recent flash over in silver, which is just dreadful, to cover it all up. So this is all going to come off, and then I think I'm going to go for a satin finish, single colour, quite simple, quite rough and ready, with all the handles and things cerakoted to give it a little bit of a contrasting detail. Wheels, I'm pretty set on some turbofan style wheels, go with the sort of motorsport theme that we're running through this one, but I'm not 100% decided on which exact wheel yet. I'm looking at the Aspiri turbofan style wheels, they're quite nice. Just got to make sure that all the offsets and that work and it's going to fit, because it sits with the sills on the floor, so I'm going to have to cut all the wheel arches. I need to clearance a bit on the footwells to get the tyres to sit up where they need to go. So that's probably one of the few areas that's still quite up in the air at the moment. Other than that, it's going to be quite a raw sort of build, so it's really chassis work done, wheels to decide, and get it running and driving. Doesn't sound like much, does it? But quite a lot to do. So check back on progress, and hopefully you'll see some big things happening pretty soon.